Welcome back, you guys. How you all doing tonight? It's been a absolutely mad day for news. Seems like we're set to sign our first new signing, Raphinha, joining the Thomas Tuchel revolution for next season. Sterling and Raphinha as Tuchel's new wingers. It's a lot's happening right now, and I'm glad you guys are joining me tonight to, share your thoughts and opinions. Get involved in the chat as well too, and of course to discuss what the hell just literally went down today. So great to see a lot of regular people here. A bit of an impromptu stream. I need to start doing a lot more streams, start getting more familiar and comfortable. So I hope you guys are here with me. It ain't gonna be like a super long one. I'm thinking maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes tops. No more needing time, no more extra 5 minutes or nothing. But it's great to see you guys like Ian, always here, man. Pleasure. Dan, how you doing, man? Sean, Marvin, lots of regular people here as always. Yeah. How you guys feeling about Raphinha? Basically about to sign for Chelsea. It's it's actually so mad. But for me, for tonight, right now, it's not about me talking and sharing thoughts and opinions. It's about answering your questions. You guys know what you are here to do today. Q&A stream. If you want your question prioritized or you just want to support the channel, feel free to send a super chat, of course. But I'm going to do my best to go through the chat right now to answer some of your questions as well too. So bear with me. There's already a few man here in the chat already. So if I don't see your question, please don't be mad and don't spam the chat too. Listen, I know there's a few passionate people here that really want their question answered, but I'm doing my best. But cool. Clovis from Minnesota, thanks for joining me, man. Great to have you here. So, starting with the first question, who's going to go first? Whose question am I going to answer first in this stream? Okay, AJ, do you think Ake will play left back here? Potentially. Nathan Ake is someone that can play a multitude of roles, a multitude of different positions as well too. He can be handy, especially when you have the option to use 5 subs. Someone like Ake, you could have him as a DM. For the last 50 minutes, you can use him as a wing back in games when you have to as well too, as a left back too. So I do feel like he does provide a lot of solutions, a lot of areas, but at times we do kind of struggle to have the right options there to create that competition and pick up the slack that injured guys leave behind. Moving on to pull up the tape. Big fan of the channel. How do I collaborate with you? You know what, one day I'll probably do more subscriber orientated style of shows where people can literally be on camera, have their voice, but it just comes down to finding the time and the format. I'm a one-man army, basically, from the thumbnails to the scripting, recording, editing. Everything you see from me in this channel is me doing it literally by myself. So don't worry though, obviously it's smart for me now to start outsourcing. Hopefully I'll find the right people to work with at some point during the summer and make my life a bit easier, to be fair. But anyway, got the first super chat right now. A-Rex Podcast, respect bro, thank you. Koulibaly and QnA or De Ligt? What's realistic? Well, it does seem like probably in order, be De Ligt first, QnA second and Koulibaly third. QnA, it could just get wrapped up just like that. And considering that we've come in to make a move for Raphinha and in the space of no time, agreed a fee, agree in personal terms, it does make you question why haven't we done the same thing right now for QnA? And maybe it comes down to Tuchel having a bit of a different tactical idea for how he's going to shape the team up. If you guys watch my latest video, of course, in the description below, you'll find all the links to the videos that I dropped today, especially the big Raphinha agreed video. I wanted to spend some time talking about a predicted lineup with Raphinha in to talk about how he could be used, especially as reports from journalists before have mentioned the fact that he could be used as a wingback. So if that was the case, maybe you're thinking someone like QnA is overkill, knowing that you have Reece James that would be able to play, right centre back and as a wingback as well too. So could that be the reason why we're not seeing QnA? It does seem like De Ligt's the main option. Tuchel wants to have a big, aggressive guy at the back who is able to dominate in his box and win a lot of variable balls as well too. And that's something that De Ligt does for fun. So it's looking like De Ligt at this point in time. QnA, who knows what might happen there. And Koulibaly, I'm not hearing anything at this point in time, even though he would be quite an interesting option as well too. But I appreciate that, man. Munir Mohammed, thank you, bro, for the super chat. But In case anyone is nice enough to send super chats, just make sure you have your question before you press send. I've been there myself. Obviously, if I'm watching streams of my favorite YouTubers, I always have to send super chats myself too. And it can be a bit annoying when you realize that your question is not even part of it. But appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot. Moving on to Koi Cams, I would take Koulibaly. Not sure about De Ligt at the price quoted. It definitely is a mad price. But there seems to be some interesting updates now. It does seem like Juventus could be willing to be involved in a player exchange. And players such as Jorginho now are options being discussed and brought up, which is completely changes everything. Because if Jorginho technically was part of a deal involving De Ligt coming our way and Juventus getting Jorginho and money, that could be quite mad. I feel like Juventus need a midfield player, you know, to have like a Pogba, Locatelli alongside Jorginho in the midfields. Getting rid of a defender where you can reinvest that money into other areas too. It could work out for all parties, to be honest, but I don't think we can let Jorginho leave, actually, if there's no plan to have a replacement first. And obviously, Rice, the news from West Ham today coming out that, you know, they're quite adamant again, being very vocal, being very public with their, you know, intentions that Rice won't be sold. But if there was any window where things would change, I think it would be this one in particular. Especially with someone like Todd Bowley, where this guy's not wasting any time. It's kind of refreshing, you know, compared to how Marina would do things, compared to how Bowley's doing things. You can't compare it right now, but let's continue to see how the window plays out. But anyway, I've got a few super chats. Appreciate everyone right now. Salam, respect, bro. Dembele deal completely off the table. Now, I've been obviously doing a lot of research, asking around, stuff like that. Reality is, you know, his contract does expire, of course, at the end of this month. I feel like we'll get big confirmations finally when we get closer to the day. Imagine more updates and reports coming out over the next few days. I could take an educated guess and maybe assume that if we're moving for Raphinha, maybe it's because we've given up on Dembele, who might be accepting like, you know, like a 50% contract reduction with Barcelona. Who knows if that's the case, but would I be too greedy to think that if Dembele, let's say, didn't agree to sign for Barcelona and he is available on a free, would I be too greedy to think that we should still make a move for him? I mean, Dembele, Raphinha, Sterling, Havertz. I think with a front three like that or an attack like that, you'd have to move to a 4-3-3 to accommodate as much attacking talent as possible. And if Dembele did leave and was available, we'd have to go for him, in my opinion. We'd have to. But moving on to Chelsea QnA. Thank you, Sean, man. Always a regular here. Appreciate that. Raphinha, brilliant signing. Sterling en route. De Ligt plus one more centre-back. Can you see Rice bid going in before end of August if West Ham get replacements plus Breuer on top? Oh, again, I can only take educated guesses based on all the reports that I've been reading. It does seem like ideally we'd like to see what Breuer does in pre-season. Pre-season's not too far away. And already you're getting the vibe that West Ham are going to be quite long. I think by the fact that you mentioned that before the end of August is literally telling you that they're going to play things out for time. But I do feel like West Ham have struggled recently to find a striker signing. Last January, they tried to make like a 50 mil move for Nunes, which maybe at the time was accepted, but the player just was not interested whatsoever. And Breuer's literally one of the most in-demand young forwards in Europe at this point in time. It would be an incredible sacrifice to make, in my opinion, knowing that this is someone that maybe if we keep on the books, could grow and improve. I felt like, you know, talking about Tammy Abraham for a second, maybe we took his goals for granted, knowing that we had a consistent supply of goals, which probably could help us. And I think Breuer could actually become like the next version of that, who could end up being like a leading forward too. So ideally, I'd love if we could get a deal done without involving Breuer at all. But if push came to shove, and if other factors like maybe Jorginho was involved in a move for De Ligt as well, then I feel like maybe we'd have to take the sacrifice, even though I wouldn't personally be too happy with that. But getting in someone like Rice, I do feel like we need a top DM option, especially with the possibility that we could have a star-studded attack for next season. And give the attack some proper protection behind them. I just think it's that simple. You know, if you want them to get in better positions, be more expressive and attack more, sign a DM. We're seeing clubs like Madrid spending 100 million on Tchouaméni. We've seen the money that clubs like Man City spent on Rodri, Liverpool spent on Fabinho. You have to pay a premium for like the very best right now. And I think the only option really right now is Declan Rice, who I'm going to keep saying this, is a lot more brazy and technical than I don't know why some people are just completely against it. But if he was to play for us, just like that overnight, opinions would change. But Sean, thank you for that super chat, bro. Moving on now to Munir. Thank you, Munir. Honestly, bro, keep up the good work. Ronaldo, big fat L. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't see that one happening. But I mean, it's interesting to know that Todd Bowley is starting dialogues, relationships with some of these super agents in football right now. Ronaldo, I just don't see it happening. Not for the wages too. Doesn't make any sense. But interesting to know that he had been offered. So I'm curious to know where Ronaldo potentially could go to in the end. But moving on to Christian. Thank you, Christian. Been watching the channel for years, bro. Love from Norway. Do you see us playing far at the back more next season? Difficult to see how we give minutes to all our attackers. Mount, Gallagher in a 3-4-3. Now, I definitely agree with you. In that vids I released literally like a few hours back, I spoke about maybe the return of like the asymmetrical 4-1-4-1 system. We saw it against Spurs last season in the Carabao Cup. So, you know, it had a lot of interesting solutions in the team. And in a sense, it allows you to field as much talent as possible. Because off the ball, we defend in the back five. And I think this is maybe the best way to utilize all the talent we have. Because for me, it's not just about maybe giving more license now to the midfield and the attacking players, but I think by playing them in ways like this is how you allow like your Kais and Kos to improve and get better. You know, someone like a Havertz, if he has like a constant supply of like regular chance creation, you know, patterns of creation, etc., etc., this is how you improve as a player. This is how you get more familiar and comfortable in these like certain moments in the field where you can become more effective. Like, it reminds me of an example like someone like Frank Lampard's. It took him years when he was like 29 or 30 to actually, you know, learn how to start scoring with his head, because he got in many good positions, but his heading game just was like one of the weakest things in his game. And you got to see it like this. If Lampard wasn't given that license to allow to like break inside the box, you know, attack the spaces and try to score goals, he would never bother to try and work on his heading, because there'd be no point for that. So this is what I mean by having like a system as well too, that not only gets the best out of the players, but allows them to like fully express themselves. And I think with certain signings we're making, if you're spending like over 100 million on Raphinha and Sterling, at some point you have to let the attack and the midfield cook. And I see goals on midfields and I see goals from the forwards now. So let's go, boys. But yeah, appreciate that, Christian. Thanks a lot, man. Moving on to Dan O'Flaherty, my guy, always here day one. Hope you're good, Nini. I'm just quite hungry right now. I literally had no time to make foods. Literally, when I'm done here, I'm gonna go straight in that kitchen, start making some noodles and some dumplings, some kimchi, some broccoli. Oh, I'm getting excited already, man. But moving on, we'll have 4 wingers soon. Surely this points for a 4-3-3, especially with DM links. Seems like it's the way we're headed. I feel like potentially, I don't want to get too carried away. I think last season I definitely got gassed with the signing of Lukaku. I just naturally kind of assumed that we would adapt things if we had, you know, like a number 9, like a focal point like him up front for us. And in the end, we saw how that played out. So I feel like I don't want to get too gassed. But you're starting to feel like potentially maybe that is the way forwards. I think for me, you know, I think it's really simple. Back 5 for the big games, because when the game opens up, this is like a cheat code system where we can compete against anyone. I think when we won the Champions League, it proved that. And every time we play games versus Liverpool, for example, toe-to-toe with us marginally being the better team in every single game versus them. But the other games, the ones where we're getting battered randomly by Brentford's, for, you know, that's still stuck in my memory. It still doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. There's no excuse for me to be using the back 3 and being that negative. You know, I always say this with a DM. When Ancelotti was a manager at the time, he originally had some ideas of trying to like incorporate like the diamond midfield system that he used at AC Milan, with Lampard being at the tip of that, and They didn't necessarily get the best out of Lampard's game because he's all about attacking spaces from deeper. But obviously, he made some tweaks to the system, had Lampard back in his number 8 role, and had John Obi Mikel play a massive, significant tactical role for that double winning season that year. Mikel, in front of that defense, receiving passes, that composure to play between the lines, it's receiving tight spaces. Off the ball, this guy would literally just move deeper. He'd move back into that defensive line. The two defenders would push wider. And by doing that, that allowed you Ashley Cole to bomb forward and get him behind. That allowed, was it Basingwa playing right back for us back then? I can't even, or was it Ivanovic actually? I think it was Ivanovic. Allowed him to get forward as well too. And when you look off the ball, it essentially becomes a back three. And someone like Declan Rice, this is where he becomes even more important for me, because this guy literally was playing games as a centre-back. He understands what he has to do in those areas. You're getting a 2-on-1 type of player who has that composure to receive, who has that match ability for me to break the lines with his passes and progress the ball with his runs. A lot of times for West Ham, this guy will receive from the centre-backs and then drive forwards down that left-hand channel, take out 2-3 men, and then play a pinpoint pass to, find one of the attacking players between the lines. If you're a shit player, you can't do that. So when I see things like that done from Rice, it does surprise me a little bit that the overall majority of people kind of don't accept that and see that. And I just think about, I could see how someone like him complements the other guys in the team, and how this can strengthen the entire team together, and how someone like a Rice could allow your Havertz's and others to be even better. For me, I just feel like now is the best opportunity right now to move to more of a midfield 3, because we've got too much talent, too much box-to-box talent in midfields. DM to give Kante some rest, for God's sake. We've still got Cover in the team as well, one of the best progressive mids in the country, and it seems now we have attacking players that you feel more confident in to take their chances and score goals. Come on, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. But moving on to Dark Gangster, the best source for CFC content, men. Keep it up. Appreciate that, bro. Thanks so much. You guys, when I make videos, there's so many reports that come out from socials, reports from across Europe, this country. If you were to consume it all by yourself, it's so easy to just not understand what the hell's happening. So I spend a lot of time just reading everything, understanding what's BS, what isn't, and then trying to present it to you guys. I appreciate that, man. I really do. But moving on to Junior, if QnA doesn't happen, I will be sad. I think it'll be interesting, but if it didn't happen, there'd be a reason behind why. And does maybe Raphinha's imminent signing allude to a possibility behind why he might not be needed? Should we be seeing Reece James now as more of a QnA? It's interesting. I don't know. We'll have to find out, lads. But moving on, got more super chats as well. So you guys in the chat, I'll get back to you. I just got so many questions to go through right now. Junior again, Sangare is still an option. To be honest with you, I'm not going to gas it and be like, I know this guy's game in and out. I mean, I feel confident in Rice because I've seen this guy for years and years now. I guess he could be an interesting option. I don't know. Moving on to Manir again. If he gets everyone and we don't achieve pressure, I don't think so. Because again, I think the only goal that has been reported now is that securing Champions League football is the main thing. I think someone like Todd Bowley, I'm only going to go off what this guy did with the LA Dodgers. He wasn't putting out unrealistic demands. He understood that there's a project here because he saw the potential in the long run, which he ended up achieving with them. They rate Tuchel a lot. They like him. And it gets to the point sometimes where, listen, for me, managers should only really get sacked if, I don't know, they lose the dressing room, for example, motivation's down, or they're really terrible personalities, or they're just really ineffective with their coaching, which kind of reminds me of Scolari back in the day when his coaching methods just didn't suit the high demands that our team needed at the time. But, unless it's those major reasons, as long as we get Champions League football and we show some improvements or have some potential in other areas, I don't think it would be too wise to just quickly get rid of Tuchel just because we didn't, win the league or something. I feel like with the new owners now, it's about the patience and actually working on building the projects. And I think that's what we've needed, to be honest. So moving on to John Ronalds. Do you think Neymar is next? Do I think Neymar's next? Probably not, man. We all saw those reports today. We saw Thiago Silva naturally saying he wants his countryman to come to the Prem. We know that Neymar's always had like issues about wanting to come to the Prem to begin with. I wonder if it was like tax related or business related or something. I'm not too sure. But no, I just don't see it happening. I mean, we've signed Raphinha. Raheem Sterling's coming. I mean, it'd be a bit greedy to then go for Neymar. And if you are going to go for Neymar, why not really, put the pressure on to try and sign Ousmane Dembele? I think that'd be the best thing for me. But I thought Dembele would just be mad though if we could sign him. He playing down the left and the right. I'm still crossing my fingers that something stupid can happen, but I guarantee I'll wake up tomorrow morning and Romanos has tweeted, that's it, he's staying at Barcelona. But moving on to Mob. Do you think Raphinha, Werner Sterling makes sense? I think Werner doesn't make sense in the question because I don't get the vibe he'll be staying here in the summer. I'd be really surprised if that was the case. I don't see that happening right now. I think Raphinha, Sterling, they got a good possibility, of course, but they still have to, fight for their spot in their team. But I mean, let's be realistic. Most times managers just favour the new signings anyway. But moving on. Hella questions. Sorry, you guys, I haven't answered one question in the chat right now. Super chat's been blowing up at the moment. And I got another question as well. Thank you, Munir, man. Really appreciate the support today. But bro, no league title in 5 years, it hurts. And for me, I think the reality is this whole short-term approach that we've been riding for the past 20 years. Maybe I'm being cynical. Maybe I'm saying that this is like definition and proof of like the hobbyist approach to the running of this club. You're seeing how we've been outperformed now by rivals in Man City. Man City actively were like, listen, whatever Chelsea did, we are not looking to make the same mistakes as them. And now they're ahead of us domestically. Liverpool as well too, They rode a few L's, they bid their time, and they built something for the future. And now they're reaping the benefits. I think this is literally what we have to do. And if we had done this years back, if we didn't just like constantly like get new managers, sell them off, get a new one, etc., etc., we'd be building towards something right now, and we'd be in a better place. So I think it has to start from somewhere. It has to, because the only possibility is that market solutions like unreal players become available and all of a sudden they want to sign for us. That'd be the only way, but then that just isn't real life. It just doesn't work like that. Ideally players want to feel that confidence before they sign for you. So yeah, man, for me, patience is needed to win that league. The level that City and Liverpool are at right now, you're not going to catch up in like 12 months time unless some miracle happen. Not miracle, we're not going to put no bad energy, but I don't know, let's say injury issues or whatever happens or XYZ, but I don't see that happening at all, to be fair. But anyway, moving on. Gonna answer some questions right now. Mario, yes, Mario Jokic, I've always seen you as well too, man. Nini, what do you expect from us? What do you expect from Gallagher in his first season for us? I'm expecting a few goals. I'm expecting him, maybe, I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of started on the sub bench. Now that we have 5 subs, he could be, imagine the intensity you're going to get from Gallagher for half an hour, for example. The pressing, the counter pressing as well, forcing moments. I feel that maybe Tuchel would see him in that aspect as well too. I feel like with 5 subs, it's always given us an advantage, especially like during lockdown. And I felt like when Lampard was the manager at the time and we had 5 subs, they were really helping us secure a lot of victories that maybe we might not do if we didn't have 2 extra options. And I think that home win versus Man City where Pulisic scored on the counter-attack was like a prime example for me. And I look at the squad we potentially have for next season, and there's certain players that you can turn to that can maybe change the dynamics. Maybe that's one thing that Tuchel hasn't necessarily had. Players that he can take off the bench and feel like he can change the dynamics of the game. So now that he has more control and say behind how he's going to run things and who's allowed to be part of the squad, for me, I can only be hypothetical, but I'm very open-minded to see what's going to happen, because I'm not going to sit here and act like the things I've seen over the past 18 months, that is it. I'm not going to see anything else, and I know everything. I mean, absolutely not. So I've got an open mind, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. But moving on to Football Star, what's your thoughts of buying De Ligt and Koulibaly as our two centre backs? I mean, ideally, I wouldn't even be going for De Ligt. I go for Bremer every single day of the week. Koulibaly, I'd even go for Koulibaly over De Ligt as well too. Knowing that the experience at least, Colossus in the air. I've always got like Van Dijk vibes from Koulibaly too, so I think he would be the option I go for, to be honest, man. Moving on to Armo TV, what do you think of us having missed out on Jesus? Bro, we got Raphinha now. So, Jesus who? I mean, let's go. Moving on. And yeah, no, don't spam the chat, bro. Let's not be doing that late at night. Not when I'm hungry. Okay, Benedict TV, does Raphinha, Neymar, Sterling make sense? I just don't see Neymar really happening, you guys. Not with the type of money he's supposed to. If there was space for him, go for Dembele every single day of the week. It just makes more sense to me. Even though I absolutely love Neymar, I've never been one of those guys that says that he only does things in Farmers League and all that BS. I mean, this guy is one of the fantasy players of the world. He's a guy that you happily pay money for to watch. It's that simple for me. Moving on to Yami Yugi. Hey Nini, what do you think about Hudson-Odoi and his career panning out, and the common graduates being sold and bought back for double, triple the prices? I've always found it kind of ironic in the sense where it's like, you know, we invest so much money, spend so much time in the scouting department, you know, looking at every future star. There's a reason why you look in the Premier League, you guys, a lot of players now making their names have spent some time at Cobham. And that kind of tells you everything you need to know about how effective a run at youth level. But I guess the contradiction for me has always been that the first team's always felt like a bubble outside the club. And this contradiction of investing so much money to scout the very best, to sign the very best, to get all these results from them. And the moment they turn, I don't know, 17, 18, and they need like some involvement at least in the team, there's no options at all. And it's kind of like, well, if you're not Messi, you're not going to get in the team. So I'm not too sure. You know, we had a lot of mid-experienced guys that outsay they're welcome. And they've been the main reasons why we are at this plateau. So I don't know. I feel like I love to see more personally done, especially when all these talents I've invested the time in watching. Your Livermentos, your guys. I just knew, not even just blind Cobham faith or Cobham sexual energy, whatever the shit they say on Twitter, but just knowing how good these guys were. And now I'm just thinking, yo, reports of Nathan Ake, when we literally let Gurley go for half the price we could sign Ake for a guy that would be much better than Nathan Ake. Just sign Gurley back, for God's sake, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's some of my thoughts, man. Moving on to Recon, thank you, bro, for the super chat. Any news on Pulisic? It feels like the last thing we heard about him was his dad's tweet and his talking to the club about his future. At this point in time, that's all we're getting currently. I feel like all the attention right now is on signings, you know, Sterling, Raphinha, planning for the season, etc., etc. Yeah, I'll say this though. I feel like the profiles we're looking at, you know, I'd say that maybe Sterling is like the more experienced, current, better version of Pulisic. But it's not like Pulisic can't fundamentally do like similar things in game. And I don't know, like I have this thought sometimes where it's like, is it a case of like wrong player at the wrong time? Because, you know, over the past 18 months, Tuchel's working with a lot of guys that are now starting to leave the club and actively looking for moves away now. Maybe you could argue that Tuchel was kind of forced into like maintaining like a certain way of playing based on like, you know, a system that helps the entirety of the squad. So it's like now that these guys are leaving and now that maybe Pulisic are maybe unhappy about how they've been used and, you know, worried about the future, etc., etc. Now that these guys are moving out, it's like now there's life for them, but then it's too late. So I'm really going to look to see how Sterling and Raphinha are used for next season. But still, I always have that thought of, we had similar profiles in Pulisic and Ziyech who we didn't really get to see the full potential of because they didn't really have their position in the team for them. So I don't know, food for thought basically. But yeah, we'll see what happens to Pulisic. I think the guy is like our fourth or fifth highest signing in our history. He signed for 60 million from Dortmund, and it does get you thinking a bit. Like, if they could go back in time, are they still going to sign for us? I'm not too sure. If he was somewhere else, he'd probably be a better player at this point in time. So I don't know. I feel like, do we do enough to be able to like take young players to the next level? I mean, I'm not too sure currently. But moving on to, got more super chats. I think, yes, we do. Sean Kenner, thank you, Sean, man. Thoughts and any news on Milinkovic-Savic links? Grime supporters, if we get players, Barney's talking 6 signings, we could be back within 3 years building every year. I think so. I think maybe this summer is about getting those foundation signings in. Looking at Raphinha, Sterling, I feel maybe getting signings that kind of suit the attacking philosophy, the attacking player that Tuchel wants for the team for next season. It reminds me of when Liverpool signed like Mane and Salah. It's like this. Listen, I can't rebuild the entire team straight away, but I need to get the key foundations right to literally get my methodology of football working and running in the team, and then it's easier to then pick the very best of certain players we need to fill for other positions. So I think maybe we're seeing similar things in that sense. For me, I'd rather be signed the very best we can get this window instead of just signing anyone for the sake of experience or nonsense or anything, knowing that if they're mids and they don't work out, you're literally repeating the same thing again next season. And it's not like we haven't been in this position before over how many years where we sign players that don't do anything and then they're just stuck on the wage bill and stuck in the loan army forever. I'm hoping under new management things are different. If I can't get the right signing I need, I'm not going to force it. Like, for example, Richarlison. I'm just thinking to myself, why would I go for Richarlison if I knew Nkunku has a release clause of 60, 70 mil for next season? Like, I want to know that there's like foresight behind the moves we're making, So I hope this season, some promise already, get them key guys that okay. As Joe Tweedy himself said as well too, year 2, that they're still going to be there and be better for it. Year 3, they're still going to be here and be better for it as well too. Not guys that probably will plateau and then you're wasting everyone's time then. But getting back to Milinkovic-Savic links, I'll be really surprised unless it's like some crazy wheelie dealing. What is coming out of my mouth right now? But obviously Lazio have shown interest in Emerson. I think that report's been going on for a while now. We know that over the past year 2, Sarri is open to working with Ruben again. Personally, I don't know. I feel like Milinkovic-Savic is a bit overkill now that we have like Mount, Gallagher, Ruben as well, who as an 8, what he can do as an 8, and I'm still going to stand by that. He's a good player, but I don't think he's like so incredibly like world class that he has to be signed and will get a guaranteed first team spot, to be fair. But that's just how I see things, to be honest with you. Moving on to John Reynolds again. Thank you, man. Rice, Mount, Gallagher, excellent this season. That could be an interesting mids, and maybe this could actually benefit the national team. Yeah, every time I've seen like international teams having success recently, there's always been a core of like, I don't know, half the squad that comes from the same team domestically. And I've always thought with international football, you got no time to train these guys. You have like a few training sessions here and there. I think that's why we see so many mid tactics or like safety football time and time again, because it's literally about strategizing and winning games instead of like being able to build a style, because there's no time really. And the recent teams like your Spain's and Germany's, etc., they all have players that kind of understand each other's game, and I think that's what gives them that advantage. So listen, hypothetically, if Rice was signed, you've got Mount on the left, Gallagher on the right, Rice in behind. If that did happen and these guys cooked at a club level, that's naturally going to translate into the international level easily. And already, the rumor mills are talking about signings for next year as well too, because it's the transfer window and that's what happens. Talking about Jude Bellingham, future sport in the team as well. The guy's still very young. It's just a lot of things to think about, to be fair. But yeah, man, I'm liking the what you're saying, Rice, Mount, Gallagher. Let's see what happens. But how long have I even been on for right now? Okay, 36 minutes, you guys. I'm gonna bounce in 10 minutes because I need to eat, man. So at 11:30, 15 minutes, I'm done. Out. Finito. Moving on to Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Thank you for joining me today. Nini, what happened to Jara from Roma? I think I know it's like a bit of like a playmaking style, deep line playmaker. Personally, I'd move away from a deep line playmaker. I just think that I'd rather have a DM who can just move the ball to the forward players, let them create more, to be fair. I've had enough of seeing guys creating from deep for too long now. I want to see something different personally. But yeah, I don't know what that guy's doing right now, to be fair. Kalo Nini, do you think we need to sign Rice or Savage? I mean, I've not seen Savage play as a DM, so yeah, I know when they were using 3-5-2, but he's always been more of the guy that has a license to, you know, get forward more. He's like more. I've always seen him as a box-to-box mids. So for me, it's all about signing the right roles and profiles more than the name and like the clout and the marketing of the player. Just think that would be absolute overkill right now, unless maybe you're thinking to cash in on someone else who already have in the team. That'd be the only way I could see it happening, to be honest with you. But I've not seen too many teams, even though he's a good player, I've not seen too many teams that's been trying to make a move to try and sign him. So I have to see what happens with that one. Ice Cold Beverage, Hungry Lions TV. Beyond starving. I'm literally starving in the savannah right now, man. It's been a long day, but I don't know what it is about the summer window. I just feel like the energy, the passion, the excitement comes back. I'm literally like on my computer nearly the entire day, from morning, lunch, afternoon. Of course, find time for like, you know, a little bit of exercise, got to errands, shopping, foods, all that stuff. But yeah, man, it's always very exciting during the summer, especially during times like this. But moving on to Tony Sewell. Thank you so much for the super chat, Tony. Appreciate that. As Alonso is on the way out, do you think the move for Ake could be more about being depth at left wing back than being a direct centre back replacement? Tuchel loves versatility, so he could still slot in a centre back occasionally. I think 100%. I think, saying it from your perspective too, you know, Ake is a guy that can fulfill every action down the left hand side of the field. You know, not only as a centre back, as part of a back three, as a full back and a wing back. This is why in my video, even though it's not a sexy name that was getting me excited, and even though I had like my talks about the principle of the signing, I wasn't trying to deny that I couldn't see the tactical intelligence behind making a move for someone like him. Especially knowing that a lot of times, as we've seen ourselves over the past 18 months, like once someone's out injured or something like that, or when you're relying upon guys like Malang Sarr who's making individual mistakes, that's going to cost you in game and stuff like that. Someone like Ake is like a glue type of guy where anytime you need someone like him to fill a role because someone's out, he's that guy you turn to. And I feel like we've always had like good players like that over the years, especially under Roman. I think of guys like Belletti, who was quite good, who was like another like, you know, jack of all trades type of player we used to have. Manish, I don't know, Manish was like that, to be fair. Wasn't even there for that long. It's off of my head. Oh, Lassana Diarra. When we signed that guy we signed from Le Havre, Lassana Diarra, he was another guy who could play on the right in midfield, DM as well too. Even something like Essien we were seeing on the right, playing as a right back, playing in defence during that crazy season where like we literally only lost the title because injuries killed our hopes. And yeah, you get benefits from having profiles like this because they're the guys you just kind of rely upon. So I think Ake is definitely interesting. And I do think actually in the long term, if he was part of the squads, you probably still upgrade certain positions. But if Ake's still there, you got quality like squad players to have in your team that is definitely up to the level to play for us. So yeah, I can understand what Tuchel's seen with this. Like I said, it's not turning me on, I'm not going to lie. But I get it. I understand the importance behind it. But moving on to Samuel, will you do a reaction video to Raphinha? Yeah, I will. But I'm going to do that once he's actually announced. Once I see him in the new kit. When's the new kit? I mean, early July we're waiting for right now. So see what happens with that one. But moving on to Oba 1, Nini. With Kante getting older, it may be better for him to start sitting more and be more horizontal in movement with Kovacic, Gallagher and Mount providing verticality and ball progression. Oba, I 1000% agree with you. There's so many examples of players as they get older who just kind of sit a bit deeper. And with how Kante plays, with how like this guy tracks back from counter attacks, the tackles he wins like from like the fullback areas, how he screens in front of the defense. I've always never understood why it's always been like a really hard thing for some people to understand that he could easily play a deeper role as a DM. I mean, when the guy plays as well too in the final third, a lot of times he's receiving on the half turn, and I think that he has that composure to receive from centre backs and play it forward. And I guess, having creativity in the final thirds and playing out from your half is like two different things. And I'd like to think that Kante will just transition deeper as the years go on, because ideally, he's a guy that I'd want to retire here, to be honest. I think he'll come back in pre-season, he'll look good. And I'm looking at the benefits Madrid had from keeping your Modric's, your Cruises and stuff like that. This thing here where you got to get rid of players after like 31, 32, no. Not for someone as unique as Kante, who could have like a long-term benefit here for at least like another 4-5 seasons, in my opinion. But let's hope he can maintain that fitness. And I think it would be easier for him as if time goes on, he is moved deeper, in my opinion. But moving on to Mob. Rice is expensive. What about Ndidi? I think my thing with Ndidi is that when it comes to the passing, playing out from the back, I need to see a guy that is one touch, two touch. I think that is the level for me for DMs playing at the highest level. I think Ndidi's sick, but he's someone that can get caught in possession on the ball. The top DMs, that rarely ever happens. He's a good player, but I mean, I just don't think that he'd be worth it, because he'd be spending so much money for someone who I don't think is as good as Rice, and just based on how I see them play deeper roles, to be fair. But moving on to Sean Kenner, which first team players and Deadwood players leave? Oh, that is a big question. I actually have a video planned on that, so I don't want to like bore you guys with the details right now. But you can probably imagine some of the guys I want to see out the team. I think we probably all want to see them out the team now. Not out of disrespect, but now it's the right time now. Definitely the right time. But okay, someone's saying there's an update on Pulisic at this point in time. I'm hoping it's not going to be mad, but I'm guessing with the announcement of Raphinha, maybe it's time Pulisic's thinking it's time to bounce and get the hell out of here. We'll have to see. Let me type that in real quick, boys. So okay, so the interest is that, I guess, as a part exchange now for De Ligt. Interesting, but still, even hypothetically, if Pulisic was part of a player exchange, I mean, this is a guy that was like the 4th highest signing in our history. Imagine he going plus money to sign De Ligt. I think De Ligt is a good player without a doubt. But I just think in terms of the money and expenses, and obviously the wages he's going to earn, these are wages that we didn't even want to give Rudiger at the time. It's interesting, and a part of me really wishes that we could have kept Christensen and Rudiger, because we had literally one of the best defenses in Europe, in the world. And I think if we kept those two guys in the team, then we're ready to like really challenge potentially this season. But we'll have to see. I mean, De Ligt's a good player, but damn, this guy's expensive, very expensive. Like, I was hoping Juventus would take Alonso and Emerson or something like that. I mean, they're taking some big players as part of this deal, but let's see how it plays out first, though. Moving on to Yanni. Yes, Yanni. Wouldn't you think midfield 3 now, where does Mount fit in? He easily fits in as an 8 on the left-hand side. I mean, a lot of the games we've seen him play, like, he does his best work in that left channel when he can, like, receive deeper from the fullback, receive from the centre-back, receive from the midfield player. The guy's got one of the best half-turns in the league. I'm not debating that. And when he receives in those areas, I mean, his reading of the game, his ability to pin these passes really quickly with pace as well too. And I like the fact that his long shots in these areas, like, he is someone that gets these long shots on target. And when he's deeper, you see the switchboards, you see everything. So without a doubt, Mount there. And I kind of feel like there needs to get to a point. Maybe it's my fault. I'm the content creator here. I should be doing a big video on Mason Mount, because I feel like, I don't know. Like I've always kind of understood those arguments of like English bias and stuff, because listen, I was someone saying the same thing back when I was younger, back when we had like your Gerrards and that type of era. And I felt like there was a bias at the time, but I just kind of feel like that argument doesn't really apply to the youngers these days, to be honest with you. And I just think that maybe it comes across as a bit misguided, because I think sometimes it's so easy to just, you know, force this like narrative in your heads where like you'll never accept the reality of what the player's actually doing. And it means that you'll never really be accurate. And I just think that it's funny, because I used to have like lots of debates with my dad with on Mount as well. Like when Mount was first coming through, my dad was like, listen, the guy's plays with his head down, he's a bit too fast, he's this, he's that. And I'm trying to explain to him, listen, look how skinny this guy's neck is. Look how the shirt is literally hanging off him. The guy's small. Does he want to spend time holding the ball off people, trying to like play between people? Absolutely not, because he can't do that. They're young. Like these guys, you have to think of the long game. Like he's gonna get bigger. He's gonna fill his body out. And now you see the difference now when Mount shields the ball and gets in front of his man. How often have you ever seen anyone take the ball off him? I mean, I was seeing this guy doing it non-stop against Liverpool, against Fabinho. So many examples of this. Yeah, for me, I just think that if Mount had his best role as an 8, he'd be seen completely differently. But for me, the fact that he can play so many roles at a high level is what makes him quite unique, in my opinion. But anyway, moving on to Ahmed. Yes, Ahmed's always backing it all the time. Appreciate that, man. Hey, bro, playing devil's advocate. Haven't we seen Kante struggle in the DM role when Lampard tried it? Sarri also had strong opinions against it. Now, this is an interesting question. I think with Sarri, I kind of felt for the guy, because everyone kind of forgot that English ain't his first language. So you're going to be open to misinterpretation. And like with the media like us, where it's about sensationalism and clickbait and whatever, and especially with how people consume news these days, which is like only from Twitter, it can make stories seem a lot worse than they actually are. Especially because like when I'm doing previews and stuff, I'm actually listening to the press conferences and interviews, and like when you actually hear what's said compared to reading it and then see it like thrown out there by like a million news aggregator accounts and all these shitty like media publications and shit too, it makes it worse. And for me, that the context he was saying is that, listen, in my system, with how I play, I just need that guy there who's going to be able to just keep that ball moving and rotating. Sorry, I guess poor choice of words, was he needs someone more technical there. But again, this is a guy that's, for me, how is he going to fully express himself properly? I mean, when you see how he talks in Italian, reading interviews and translating them to how he was talking here, it's just completely night and day. So I never held that against him, because I understood the sentiment, and that's the main thing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of times in today's world, like if you don't, like it's so hard to articulate yourself as a person. You know, there's all these choices of words you have to use. We always try to find words that describe the feeling we have towards something, and it is hard to be able to like fully express yourself with how you really mean it. And I'm sure we've all been in situations ourselves where we've been misunderstood when we tried to say something that we couldn't express properly. So, you know, in terms of the system he played, of course, Kante is not going to do Jorginho's role, because you're just literally missing out on a player for no reason. But that doesn't mean that the way Jorginho plays is the only way that players can play out from deep positions. Absolutely not. Jorginho is literally just the guy there to dictate the play, you know, organize the press, all those types of things. So he can definitely do that. And I don't actually agree with you about his DM role on the Lampard being bad, because there was that 2.5 month spell where we were unbeaten, getting a lot of good results in Europe and in the league as well. We were starting to see some great type of free-flowing attacking football. And it was injuries that kind of ruined a lot of things. And then, of course, all the disharmony behind the scenes with the squad as well. But during those times, we were literally scoring the first goal, getting the second goal. And then literally for the last bit of the game, we'd be sitting deeper, playing on the counter-attack. And obviously, we was able to do that when we brought in the new coach, the Irish guy. What's his name? I need to Google it really quickly. Irish coach. How am I forgetting his name? Yeah, when Anthony Barry came in, that's when we saw like big improvements in terms of the organization, the press and stuff. And this is what I mean, man. Like, there was definitely like a period of good form in the team, and I thought Kante played a big part because he was out there screening the defense and on the counter attack, winning balls out wide. But yeah, just wasn't to be. But yeah, I think for sure Kante easy can play deeper. But anyway, moving on to Kurt Leah. Thank you, Kurt. Sterling, Lewandowski, and Raphinha. I don't think Barcelona can afford Lewandowski. Thoughts? Now, Lewandowski's interesting. I did a story a while back. It seemed like some pretty decent reports talking about how we entertain talks, like informal talks. Of course, it's natural. And I kind of believe it now, knowing that Todd Bowley actually met Jorge Mendes, which was reported factually. And listen, he spoke about Ronaldo and other players. That doesn't mean that we're going to sign them. So I'm not going to think that the reports that we spoke to Bayern about Lewandowski weren't real, to be fair. But I think they were saying that we brought up like a proposal of potentially trying to sign him on loan. See what that's like first. Bayern Munich don't want to sign Lewandowski. They've got no one to replace him right now. The guy has agreed terms with Barcelona, but of course we know their situation at this point in time. But if Bayern are basically saying, listen, if everything kind of works out like that, which is highly unlikely, if you were to get him on loan, the player would have to agree to a contract extension first, which makes things, adds another layer of difficulty on top to make an impossible signing even more impossible, basically. So yeah, I'm not too sure if there's much of a chance for Lewandowski like that. There's too many factors and things have to align for that to happen. I just think that there'd be no point wasting our time with that when we've got other positions to fill and other players to sign and other players to move on to. So appreciate that, Kurt. Thanks a lot, man. Moving on to some of the questions in the chat now. Nihan, if we don't sign Rice, do you still think it would be worth it using 4-3-3 this year in the Premier League? I think, yeah, because, listen, I'm not going to say let's use it first Man City. I'll keep it open minds, but probably not. But I mean, most of the teams in the bottom half, mid-table, and most of the Europa League placed teams, I think we have the quality. And it's just like if you have an attack and you're constantly always giving all your wages to attacking players, they're the highest ones, and they're not the most important ones in the team. I think for me that contradiction has to stop because it doesn't make any sense. But moving on to Oba. Yes, Oba. Pulisic won't be sold. US marketing value is crazy. But I think if the player was to be sold, it's because he wants to go. I think that's the reality behind a lot of it. It's not like Tuchel's been saying to man, listen, I don't want you. It's more of a case of players wanting to leave. Ziyech, his agent, we know that they've been activating the talks and starting them, initiating them again with AC Milan. That's why something's happening. Of course, you're looking at someone like a Pulisic, who's we only found out a few days ago that he's going to be talking about his future. But now that Sterling's here, Raphinha's here, Hudson-Odoi is already back in pre-season doing this thing already. It's not painting the most confident picture for the player. So I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I think there's definitely a lot more to come from him. And I don't know. It'll sound crazy. But I even would have given Pulisic another season. If I know that potentially I could be using left wingers, how am I not going to use Pulisic in his best position when I saw what this guy did in his first season in the Premier League, where it completely took me by surprise, especially, second half of the season, Pulisic, during that point in time. You guys, when we first signed him, I wasn't impressed or happy. But you know what I'm like. If I'm proven wrong and I see new things, I'm more than happy to change my minds. But I just feel like maybe past 18 months, we just ain't done enough to get the full potential out. So if Pulisic's missing chances because he's not confident, he's a human being, so I'm going to understand that, basically. But moving on to Ogbonna. Nini, would you prefer Bremer or De Ligt? It would have to be Bremer all day. I just think for the price valuation, I'm hoping the talks that the Torino's directors having right now are going to be fruitful. I mean, we've got players, we've done business with them before. We have players we could even loan out to them if it maybe helps us be able to get him. And I think Bremer's not going to turn down coming to us. Absolutely not. Moving on to Leonard Razak. Hey man, how you doing? I can't help but think Tuchel having more control can sometimes be a bad thing, since Tuchel is obviously not a scout. And targets like Ake, Zinchenko, Richarlison worry me. Next summer should be good. And I agree with you. Next summer when we have like data analysts and a sporting director that's leading the moves and taking control like that. This is why I don't want to have too much of a mad window where, I mean, I was getting a bit annoyed having to talk about Richarlison to you guys, because I'm thinking this is a guy I don't want to see coming out at all. But I know that next summer could even be better, because there's young guys in Europe right now who could blow up, and you got to keep an eye out for. And if you got a possibility to sign some of them to improve the team, why would you deny that long-term future just to have someone like Richarlison for an overinflated amount of money signing for you because he defends from the top? Nah, sorry, man. That can't be the one for me. But moving on to Oba again. Thank you, Oba, today, man. Really had my back today, man. He has played all over the pitch last season. I think that's in context for what we was talking about before. Oh yeah, I think Pulisic, yeah, he's played as like left wing back, right wing back, false nine. Like when you're young too, like it gets to a point where you need to have a set position. Like even Raheem Sterling, like one of the main reasons behind why he left Liverpool that season, that final season at Liverpool, you know, you've got Rodgers using this guy as a wing back at times, you know, using him here, there, everywhere. That's the best way to get anything out of the player. And obviously going to Man City, knowing how you're going to be used and the position you're going to play in. Listen, these guys want to play in their best positions. You know, if you've got the opportunity to play for a big club, it means that you're very competitive, and it means that you want a stat pad. You want to have the best career possible, right? All these guys growing up had dreams of being the star players, X, Y, Z. A few are lucky enough to be in these positions of, like, you know, I mean, how many big clubs are there, and how many squad places and spaces are there really for anyone, really? So, of course, they want to make sure they're maximizing everything they're doing. So, I mean, so if Pulisic did leave, I'd understand, even though now I'd be a little bit disappointed. But moving on to Jack Powell, think we should buy Tammy Abraham next summer. I mean, I think that's an interesting point as well. I think from next summer we can activate, any clauses to buy him back for 67 million. If Tammy blows up again, and let's say he got like, I don't know, 35 plus, 40 plus goals, of course you'd have to naturally pay attention. I mean, it only makes sense to do that. So, let's not completely deny ourselves, especially like, for example, let's not deny ourselves signing mid players who might not even bang 12 months later. But flipping hell, I swear I said that I was gonna be bouncing soon. It's literally like I said I was gonna leave like 10 minutes ago. Oh, am I gonna do Nini time again? I've honestly got no discipline whatsoever. It's so bad. You know what? Okay, 5 more minutes, because you guys got me talking. You got me in that conversational flow right now. 5 more minutes and I'm gone, because I need to eat, bros. I've got another busy day tomorrow. Give you guys a bit of a heads up. Of course, recorded the video with football therapy. We're going to be talking about predicted lineups. Of course, you guys got to watch it for tomorrow, man. But moving on to Imran. Nini, are you worried that Tuchel will play price tag like our older managers? That's an interesting question as well too. Playing devil's advocate, could you argue that because these are like signings he actually wants, he'd be more inclined to have more time and patience for them? Potentially. But I guess, some of us fans like to have that thought of knowing, okay, hopefully there's, everything's like meritocratic enough where if someone performs sick in training for like a whole month, he would then get a place to play in the team because he deserved it. I think that's kind of what Tuchel said at the start during his reign, but we all know that every manager says that, and then it's completely different when you're in the thick of things in a season. So I don't want to, again, I'm trying to keep an open mind here, because like for me personally, you can just become like a broken record saying the same points all the time because you don't adapt your views. I'm not sure, but I see it on social media all the time. People is making the same points they've been making for like 4 or 5 years now. It's just like, you're not bored saying the same thing every single day all the time. Like, I'm not trying to be like that. I'm trying to keep my mind fresh if I'm making content as well, because I want to put out like good, close objective content as I can to make it engaging, you know. So moving on to Janet Razak. Thank you, bro. Kai could play the Kai could fill the striker role this year. Waiting for Nkunku next year could be worthwhile, similar to Haaland to Man City. Other targets like Tammy Abraham, maybe. I think that is, for me, that's the best thing. I think if you can't get your top two, for me, top two. If you can't get your top two choices and positions, don't force it for no reason. Don't force it. Like, why make things harder than they have to be? Liverpool took their time, ended up signing Van Dijk, signing transformational players that make a big difference for them. I think they've shown us a way because they have been ahead of us over the past few years. That's just the reality right now. So I agree with that logic 1000%. I hope that's the energy we have for next season. And Nkunku, I see this guy blowing up even more, getting even more interest from other clubs after him as well. He's worked with Tuchel before. I think he could do a job with us as well, depending on how things play out with other signings as well. But you know what it's like, you guys. Yeah, we'll probably sign Sterling and Richarlison for 100 mil. But because we're a big club, we'll probably sign someone else next season for like, I don't know, 80 mil or something. And then maybe, who knows, maybe a Raphinha, for example, we're looking at him as a big new money signing. We could be seeing him as like the squad winger for next season. That's just how it works in football. So, yeah, really interested to see how things pan out. But I think Kai Havertz has a massive season, a massive one, because he could potentially be that main striker we turn towards. I feel like times maybe Tuchel hasn't necessarily been as helpful. Like when I'm seeing Kai on the left-hand side, I'm thinking to myself, why is this guy on the left doing what? Like, he can't even beat his man because his stronger foot, the tackling angles are working against him all the time. What can he really do? But I think Kai, now that he's maybe got a bit of assurance behind his role, a bit of focus now around him, he's the guy I'm looking towards. Because for me, potentially he could be our equivalents like Haaland and Nunes, and you know, that key fulcrum to our attack basically. And if he isn't, you'd probably imagine maybe the club would think maybe we have to look at someone else to compete alongside him, because it's just how it works in football. But moving on to Chelsea QnA. Thank you, Sean, man. Been showing me too much love tonight. Could Raphinha Sterling be Duff and Robin? Your thought? Robin and Duff. Yeah, that season, it's so crazy. Like when I was a kid, you know, literally every single week I was at Stamford Bridge watching the games. You just kind of take it for granted when you look back. And now it's just kind of changed my perspective on football, where it's like, appreciate what you're watching when you realize it's something special. I think the last feeling I got was Eden Hazard as well too. It feels like a privilege that we had some like Hazard playing for us for those many years. One of the greatest players in the world consistently for years. I think, yeah, Robin and Duff was giving me the same opinions back then, especially Arjen Robben. Like, he was my favorite player by far when I was a kid. Everything about him, the dribbling style, the pace, the skill, the goals. Like, that was a Ranieri signing. So I'll thank Ranieri for signing him and Petr Cech. But he was one of those guys you don't understand how sad I was when he got sold on and when he moved to Real Madrid. I was just thinking, he's going to Real Madrid. He's not going to flipping Fulham. Like, why are we getting rid of this guy? And I think that back then, that's when I had my first little thing against Roman, because it's just like, if we didn't have Shevchenko in the team because you bought him, Mourinho would not be forced to have to change the formation, and we'd be using wingers, and Robin would still be happy, and he'd still be here with us. But I know there's other things like Mourinho getting frustrated with his like injuries and shit like that, and all that nonsense back then too. So it's not just simply that. But yeah, Robin during those first two seasons, wow, what a player. But I don't know. I'd have to really see. Raphinha definitely has that Samba flair. Definitely very skillful. We've all seen the comps like crazy. After the announcement, we all watched the comp video straight away. Let's be serious right now. So it'd be nice to have a bit of that 1v1 type of aggression. Sterling, maybe when he was at Man City, it was more about his movement off the ball. potentially. But, you know, he still has that ability, that acceleration. He hasn't lost that. You know, he can still get past someone just like that. 2-footed as well. If I'm Hudson-Odoi, I'm learning from him. Maybe getting some techniques and tips from Sterling. I haven't given up on Hudson-Odoi. I've always kind of felt like he'd be one of those guys that would really blow up when he's like 22 or something like that. He's still got another 2 years ahead, so there's plenty of time around Callum. And I say this because Sterling, the guy couldn't actually finish until like, what, a few years back. So yeah, sometimes everything just happens in moments and stages. But yeah, man, I'm not too sure right now if I can compare Raphinha and Sterling to Robin and Duff. I think I'd just be gassing it and being like a typical YouTuber of just hype. So it's way too late for that, you guys. It's 11:45. I gotta be realistic. Moving on though to Daniel. Yes, Daniel, what you saying, man? You good? Nini, thoughts on Savage rumors? I've said it a few times in the stream. I mean, I kind of feel like you only go for him unless you're really planning to move out other players. I think we're stacked with box-to-box mids. I don't think Milinkovic Savic is such a massive upgrade to anyone we have that he'd be worth the time and money. That's my honest opinion. I get probably a few comps people are seeing X, Y, Z, but yeah, I think there's a power in players who are able to express themselves playing roles that suit their game. Like when I had Chalobah on, Nathaniel Chalobah, all those years back when me and Joe Tweedy did like a little interview with him on the channel, which I think is still on my channel as well too. We spoke about how like players become world class, and like all the variables and factors that determine how you get there. And I think at times it's easy to think, you know, if you had high potential from a kid, it's like linear. You're bound to reach those heights, but it just doesn't really work like that. And you know, if a lot of players have that luxury of the right manager at the right time, right system at the right time, teammates, etc., like if you were to run football as like a simulation, there'd be so like sometimes I think the fact that Sane and Mane and Salah are like two of the world's top players. Sometimes I think, what type of simulation are we actually in? That someone from Senegal, someone from Egypt are like two of the premium like players in the world. So their futures could have been completely different if someone like Klopp didn't come at the right time. You look at someone like Salah, who had big potential, sick player, but I thought Mourinho was kind of killing his potential at Chelsea. So like these things can always become so different in the end. I just think that Milinkovic Savic has benefited from a lot of that, being at Lazio for years. You know, that back three they use, with him being the guy to break forwards, and also Maurizio Sarri, who's the guy that's always used box-to-box mids from Zielinski, Ruben, and of course Milinkovic Savic. And is it any surprise that he had like his best stat season working under Sarri? Absolutely not. But my thing is, does that necessarily translate here? I don't think so. And I think with what we have in box-to-box guys like, you know, Mount, Gallagher and Ruben, I don't think we need Milinkovic Savic, to be fair. But moving on to Ahmed again, thank you, bro. Mount, Kante DM cover seems nicely balanced on paper. Goal creator, yeah. Elite destroyer, unpressable ball carrier. How do you set up? I think that's a very sexy midfield three, and I think that is how I see it too. It's about how these players complement each other playing together, not just like the names in positions playing together. How do the roles complement each other? That, like this for me, this is where like football is like the moving equivalent of chess. This is what fascinates me more about it, like the strategy aspect, the tactical aspect, etc. I feel like to build like a great team, you need to combine the right roles together. Of course, the player's quality makes a difference, but most importantly, the right roles together will give you more of an advantage against a team that doesn't have that type of unity or that cohesion. And I think it makes sense. Kante DM easily, could run that easily. Mount as well, dropping deeper to receive, which he can do. And cover as well, unpressable, linking the player in the final thirds. We got the talent. Like, if we're spending 100 mil on Sterling and Raphinha, with the midfield talent we have, please, let's use it. Please, let's use it. Please. I beg. I really do, man. But, you know what? I feel like if I was to leave right now, it's like 10 minutes to 12. my OCD is just not physically allowing me to do that. I feel like I have to leave in 10 minutes now. You guys have definitely taken the piss tonight. I'm still on here. This is all your faults. But final 10 minutes before I keep things moving, because I need to eat to get ready for another busy day tomorrow. But moving on. Let me dim the lights a little bit too. It's getting a bit too, it's a bit too severe right now. Give me 1 second, you guys. Can make it a bit too dark. Yeah. Okay, let's go. But moving on, super chat from Anthony Bishop. Appreciate that, man. Apparently, full agreement with Leeds Raphinha. There it is. I guess I'm gonna have to wake up early tomorrow. But yeah, man. Who would have thought it was gonna actually play out like this? And you know what the annoying thing was? I was literally like preparing dinner for me and my girl. She came back from work, wanted to talk to me about her day and all those selfish things. And then just as I'm like, okay, you're talking a bit too much now. I need to go back to the computer, see what's happening. For the past, 40 minutes, is confirmed that Raphinha was coming. I'm like, oh my God, I need to get to work straight away. So, yeah, it's just been a random day. Of course, we all saw the Raphinha reports, but the way it escalated so much, that's why I'm here right now. But moving on to Munir again. Thank you, Munir, for the super chat, man. Appreciate that. I saw another one. Abhishek. Yes, how you doing, man? Always here in my streams as well, too. Appreciate that. Nini, big fan from India. Are we most likely going to play false nine this season? Now, there's been reports that Sterling could also be an option used as a false nine, which he has done for Pep. But sometimes I think about false nine, and basically it's like every time it's like maybe like a winger or like an attacking mid that plays up front, they're instantly seen as a false nine. But false nine is about having to like drop deeper. Like, for example, I'd say like Ibrahimovic when he was at Paris Saint-Germain, when he had like Lavezzi and Cavani alongside him. He was a false nine to me. Or was he? Or deep line? I don't know. He was a false nine to me because he kept dropping deeper all the time. And that allowed, like, you know, the runs behind from Cavani and Lavezzi. And then Ibra was there unmarked, just coming inside the books. I think Kai could do that, but I just haven't really seen him used in a way that is proper false nine. And I think the fact that Tuchel kind of calls him like 9.5, 10.5, all these fractions and decimals, tells me that, you know, he does a bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, but he's not doing like that one role to the fullest, if you know what I mean. Because if he was a false nine, like what he was at Leverkusen when he was really dropping deep, we'd be seeing him playing passes in behind to people, which we don't see. You know, we'd be seeing other players in his position ahead of him, which we don't see. You know, Kai is always in the books normally when he's playing that role, and he plays more of a striker role to me than that false nine role. So if Sterling was signed, he was doing something different. Let's see what happens. But I don't really feel like we use false nines like that. But who knows now that we have new wingers with goal threat coming in. But moving on now to Freddy Ford. Yes, Freddy. Respect, man. Delit, Koulibaly or Koundé. For me, am I picking either one? Just one of them? You know what? I'd actually go for Koundé. I mean, obviously I've been watching this guy even more this year too. I think the guy's a sick player, and I can see exactly why he has a lot of he gets a lot of the big managers excited, and I think he would have been so sick to have, and he would have been really fun to watch as well too, at the back. And his height, I don't think he's 5'11". That's not small. Maybe in terms of like, I don't know, traditional centre back heights, but the guy is stocky, the guy is built, great upper body, great core strength as well. You're not seeing him getting out muscle on the ball, and he's always in the air challenging for balls too. So I think Koundé, I'm still kind of hoping that we can get something done for him, because especially if we move to a back four, Koundé, my back four, with how he plays and that ability to like beat the press and help us play, I think he could do some big things here, to be honest. But moving on to Top Gregory, thank you, Tom. Big up Nini, my guy. Constant top content Respect. I appreciate that, you guys. Really do appreciate that. Yeah, for me, like, when I'm making these videos, I want to put in effort. That's why I spend the time with the edits, spend the time with the graphics, a little presentation here and there. Of course, I could easily just like put a camera in my face and just put it out on YouTube. But for me, I feel like if I'm lucky enough to have a job like this, I got to have more respect for it and make it quality for the viewers and the audience, basically. So I appreciate that, man. Obviously, there's been times throughout last season too where I wasn't as on point with what I was doing, but I'm happy that I'm far behind them days now. And yeah, it's been a good couple of months. But I'm here for 4 more minutes and I'm going, you guys. No excuses. Another super chat from Sasko Aliyu. And you guys, please don't get offended if I'm butchering names. It's let's blame it on the time. It's like literally going to be 12 a.m. in London soon. But anyway, I was more for the youth. But the way City and Liverpool are going, bringing anyone to better the team, I'm all for it. We have to be extremely aggressive. I agree with that principle, and I'm stressing on the principle aspects. But for me, the reality is that I don't think we can attract levels like that really are the big upgrades that Liverpool and City can. I think, City have always been able to do that because they're one of the richest clubs in the world. I think Liverpool had to literally work themselves up to that point where they are able to attract top players now, with someone like a Nunes, who I think will be an absolute star in the Premier League for next season, is thinking, okay, I need to go to Liverpool, and they got the money to splash out 100 mil. I think, for me, it's never been a case of the youth have been keeping us back. I don't think that's accurate. I think if we're a fan base, if we went on the fixtures on Google, typed in Chelsea fixtures, we see all the results, all the losses and draws, you'd see that there was a senior player at fault in all those games. And I think that's just the reality behind it. I think for me, it was all about having top quality youth and then signing sick players alongside them. So, we are moving out some of these experienced figures now to sign Raphinhas and Sterlings, who are supposed to be better as well. So, I think that's more of an effective approach than maybe the youth being the reason behind it, in my opinion. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Moving on to Marcus Main. I like your name, man. Marcus Main. A very assertive, very powerful name. Moving on. Dream Team goalkeeper. No, okay, sorry. Dream Team goalkeeper Mendy. Left wing back Ben. Centre back QnA. Silva in the middle and Koulibaly. Right wing back James, of course. Midfield Rice, Kansé. And up front Sterling and Nkunku and Dembele. Now that front three would have been spectacular. And Nkunku was one of my guys I would have dreamed we could sign this summer. Wasn't able to be the case. And Dembele, seems like the dream is potentially over, but I'm going to still keep crossing my fingers that something will happen within these next few days where it's like, I'm going to be doing this again, where 6 p.m, the news is coming thick and fast that we're basically about to wrap up a move for Dembele. I'm praying that that's how it's going to play out, because Sterling, Dembele, Kai, Hudson-Odoi, in a season when you can use 5 subs as well too. I mean, come on, that's just like that completes the attack. And then it's like, okay, we've got the attack sorted now. Now we can work on getting, sick players for other positions. So I do like that. Rice, we'll see what happens. It'll be very hard. Very hard. I feel at one point it's going to take the player now having to be like, this West Ham, I got to love you and leave you. You have to let me move on and grow now. But yeah, and Nkunku with the skill, how the guy plays in tight spaces, the technique with Dembele, that could have been something special to be fair. And who knows? Maybe that's like a 23, 24 season type of thing. I guess we'll find out. But I'm going to answer one more question before I keep it moving, you guys. It is 12 and I need to eat. I'm barely starting to crumble. You guys can't hear it. I'm just like blocking out the sound right now. Final question. Who am I going to ask? Ingvar, thank you for the super chat, man. Sorry that your question wasn't there, but maybe it was just like a support super chat. Appreciate that. But for my final question, I feel like I need to find a good one to answer before I go. Denver Bar. Should I answer your question? Now that I've seen it, I feel like it'd be kind of a muggy thing to do to just like leave you on air. I'm not like that, man. I'm not like any of the girls in your life or nothing like that. No, I'm playing. But anyway, moving on, Denver Bar. Raphinha at left wing back. I'd be disappointed if we just spent 55 million to sign competition for Ben Chilwell. I think we'd be doing things a little bit wrong if that was the case. I'd say Denver Bar, obviously respect what you did for the club, but I'd say maybe watch my video, because I feel like your thinking's right in terms of wing back, but I don't think it's going to be at left wing back. I think it could be more at right wing back. So yeah, Ahmed Hassan, big up, man. Rate you crazy. Your content on point. I appreciate that, man, from Jamaica. Respect, bro. Really appreciate that. Respect to everyone on the stream. Yeah, I'll be, before I even go, I'll just say this quickly. Feel very humbled by the views right now, the interactions and stuff, but also very surprised as well too. It feels like the algorithm just likes me all of a sudden. It hasn't been like this for a while. So yeah, there's literally my motivation now is literally on you guys, the energy I feel to get out good content. And I feel like now that I'm like moving healthier in my life and doing a lot of like decisions personally behind the scenes too, it's starting to manifest even better on the channel now, and just long may it continue. And you know, obviously the views are nice and stuff, but it's never really been something that I guess I just kind of learned to not care about it, because it hasn't been like a focal point for me for so long that maybe it's putting me in a better place right now. But anyway, yeah, quick super chats, appreciate that so much, you guys. But not, you guys don't send any more super chats after this, because I really do have to go. But moving on to Marcus Main. Do you think we should get Ronaldo? I say no. I think he would just be another Lukaku. I think potentially, to be fair, Ronaldo relying on a lot of service quality, which I think we could provide. I'm envisioning like Reece James crosses inside the box, Ronaldo getting on the end of them. Could be a thing of beauty. But I just think that I don't know. I think personally it's weird though, because we're not Man United. We have a structure. We have those details there that United just don't have. And Ronaldo has just been literally doing his thing this whole season and got 24 goals playing for a mid-team like United. So with a legend like this in the game, I don't think I could confidently say that I think he's struggled here. Maybe we'd have to adapt him a little bit. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I just think that Lukaku has always been like such a specialized striker throughout his career that if you're not going to use him as like a counter-attacking type of player, you're kind of wasting your time basically. But with Ronaldo, I don't think they're not the same profile, they're not the same players. I think Ronaldo could be maybe more successful than Lukaku. And moving on to Mob, again, thank you, bro, for the support today. No more questions. Good night, my G. See you tomorrow. I think that's probably the best way to end tonight's stream. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone. I guess I'll catch you all again tomorrow. Let's see what crazy news has for us. Let's see what Mr. Torbodi has in store for us too, because I wasn't expecting today at all when I started my day. And it feels like the summer window now is starting to finally come alive. So you guys, on that note, thank you to everyone that is up late with me today. I hope you guys all go to bed too as well, because we got a busy day tomorrow. And on that note, I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Line CV. Catch you guys there with some more videos.